Welcome to Travels with Alicia. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about Izamal. It is a small town in the Yucatan. It's normally thought of as a day trip from other locations, whether it's Merida or Valladolid. But I'm going to make you think differently and think of this as a destination by itself. So let me tell you a little bit about it. I said it was very small. There's only 16,000 residents, so that's how small it is. And that's why people do think of it as a day trip. But there's so much more. The Secretary of Tourism did name Izamal as a public magical, which is, they've named about 130 small cities and towns. They've given them this designation because there's something special about them, culturally or from the beauty of the town. So I think, when I tell you a little bit about this town, I hope that you think it was worthy of a separate episode. The first thing that everyone wants to know about this town is, why is it yellow? This is the most amazing small town where every single building is a bright, kind of Cornish color yellow. It's like an unbelievable hue. And, when the sun's setting, or it's just so photogenic. And so everybody wants to know, why is the entire town yellow? There's several stories, but the one that's always told is that in preparation for the Pope's visit in 1993, they painted the town yellow because it was his favorite color. I've heard that's not necessarily true because it was yellow prior to 1993, but maybe there's some truth to the story in that it was maybe not every town, or maybe they spruced it up in preparation for the Pope. I've also heard it's yellow because the Mayans worshipped corn, and it's the color of corn. So either way, it's a monochromatic city, which there's only 5 in the world. So that's what makes this so special. And when I said it's photogenic, I'm not kidding you. You would not believe how odd it feels to be in a city that every single thing is yellow. But it's a lot of fun, and I hope you get to visit it. So what's there to do? The biggest attraction is the convent of St. Anthony of Padua. It was built in 1561, and it was built on an ancient Mayan worship center. It was originally used to convert the Mayan people to Catholicism. It's still an active church and one of the oldest in all of the Americas. But what's the most interesting about it is that the courtyard is so huge. So when you think of famous Catholic churches, you think of the Vatican. And if you've ever been there and walked into that main square, your breath will be taken away. The convent of St. Anthony of Padua in Izamal is the second largest. So everyone talks about the Vatican, but no one ever has mentioned what's the second largest, which is in Mexico, in Izamal. So this is a huge destination, and it is really worth a visit to see this. There's tours, you can learn more about the history, and it's definitely worth a visit. I've heard at night when the sun goes down, they actually do a light show. And you can see how they light it all up. And because it's all yellow, it just gives a really interesting effect. The second thing I would do is the largest Mayan ruin in Izamal is actually walking distance from this convent. It's, a few blocks away, and it's a pyramid. It's about 115 feet high with 10 levels. You can walk up it, and it's dedicated to the solar god. So it's really exciting to be able to be in such a small place and have such a huge church and square, and then ancient ruins walking distance away. Another really fun thing to do in this town is to rent ATVs. Now, this is something I haven't seen everywhere. Some of the cities and towns are too big, but because Izamal is small and quaint, you can rent ATVs. And it's just really exciting to be able to see people driving around on these four-wheel vehicles. They tour around the town, and they can actually go out and see cenotes and things that are on the outskirts of the town with this. So that's really fun and exciting. This town is very artistic. It has an artisan center where they sell a lot of the things that the people in Izamal make. So they make hammocks. So you'll be able to find gorgeous, all different types of hammocks, paper mache, jewelry. But what I found really interesting, so this is for those of you that speak Spanish. I think you'll be able to do this. I'm not sure I could do this without a tour guide. Is not only can you visit the big artisan center in the town, you can go and there's signs outside of these designated families that are making these products. You can knock on their houses. Their houses are their stores and their factories. So you can knock, there's a official sign, and you can just knock on the door, and the family that makes hammocks, this is the only official family in Izamal that's doing this in their home, basically as a factory. You can go in and see what they're making. You can buy things directly from them. I can imagine that people that sell some of these products all over the world have come and, been able to export these products. There's another gentleman who makes the paper mache, and he has a sign on his home. And these are in the outskirts of Izamal, but if you had an ATV and you knew where you were going, you could go knock on the door, and he shows you. And what he's famous for is making paper mache butterflies. And they can be as much as like 1.5 feet wide to small. And there's a whole process that he makes these, and there's some butterflies that are kind of from this region, and he creates them in paper mache. He's so famous that there was a big art show in Paris, and they flew him there and paid all his expenses, he said, and he was able to display a lot of his art. People use his butterflies to create art also. I was in Art Basel in Miami, and I swear I think I saw his butterflies. I saw a few unbelievable art installations, and after I saw his butterflies, I know they were his butterflies on a huge dome or on a wall flying up. And that's pretty cool and pretty interesting. And I will say, I don't believe these families speak English. And so unless you go with a tour guide, it'll probably be a little bit difficult to knock on their door and communicate. But it's something really special about this town in this region. There's also one for jewelry making. There's a whole list of them. So if you're interested and you're in Izamal, you could ask at the artisan center that's selling all their products in town that you want to visit the family or the place where they're made, and I'm sure they would tell you all about it. So that's really exciting. The other thing to do is cenotes. And I think I may have mentioned in another episode, but there was an asteroid about 66 million years ago off the coast of the Yucatan, and there's a ring around Merida where there are sunken caves and caverns and holes that became cenotes, which are swimming holes. And this is very famous, and Izamal's actually on the ring around Merida. So you can visit many, many cenotes. I'm going to only call out one, and it's San Isidro, Isidro, and it's about 50 minutes away from Izamal. It's the same distance from Merida, but it's one that has it's very built up for tourists. Some of these cenotes that you'll find, they're literally a ladder down to a swimming hole. And unless you're extremely adventuresome and they don't have life vests and stuff, so I personally don't recommend people going there unless you're extremely experienced. But somewhere like San Isidro, it is, life jackets. There's, snack bars. There's pools outside to hang out, eating areas. They even have cool places you can stay overnight. So places like that, I think, are more set up for tourists, and I do think that's a good idea. Let me tell you a little bit about the food. There are 2 restaurants I want to call out. Knish Izamal, and that is the highest rated restaurant in Izamal, and I did get to go there. I would say it's mid-priced. I think our meals were maybe $10 or $12. But what was really interesting is the cocktails. They were artisanal. They used ingredients from the region, and they were gorgeous. They were strong drinks, but they were really worth ordering. And again, they had a lot of good local food. The other restaurant Zamna, I did not get there, but everyone also raves about that. It's a little more casual of a place, but equally as fun. As far as accommodations, there are several hotels, not near as many choices as other cities because it is so small, but more and more is popping up. I saw some 3-bedroom places for about $190 a night, 4-bedroom for about $400 a night. So these are actually a little more expensive than some of the cities. But I think because there's so few of them, and those that are there are very high quality. Like the one that was 4-bedroom for about $400 a night, they had indoor pools, outdoor pools. I mean, these are extremely high-end luxury type places. I even found one 5-bedroom place that was $1,100 a night. But again, this is out of like Architectural Digest. So I think there is something for everyone. The hotels were pretty reasonable at $30 to $35 a night. And a lot of them look wonderful with lots of character. So I guess there's one other thing that I wanted to mention to you is how to get there. I told you, I think I mentioned it's about an hour from Merida. And how I got there may have not been the best way. I took an Uber because in Merida you can take Ubers. So for maybe it was $30 and it was like a less than an hour drive, we got to the city with no problem at all. But then I had no way back. And the taxis in Izamal are local cars that may be 20, 30 years old. And they were so kind to us, to my daughter and I, but I don't think they didn't speak English. Second, they know where Merida is, and I don't think their cars were roadworthy for trips that long. They finally got us to one taxi that had a car that looked a little bit more roadworthy, and he did take us back for about the same price as the Uber, and we made it back. But it's just something to remember. You can arrange private drivers, and you can take a bus. You could do either one. But taking the Uber without a plan back, I don't know what I was thinking. I just thought, of course the Uber will come pick me up. But they don't even show up when you go to the city of Izamal. So just something to remember. I hope this discussion and this episode made you realize that Izamal can be so much more than a day trip. I think I'd recommend staying there for 2 to 3 days, especially if you're renting a place with a pool where you can do some relaxing. You can actually check out some of these artisans, look at some of this, go and look at some of the ruins and check out some cenotes while you're there. If you like this episode, check out the others in my series and stay tuned for more travels with Alicia.